Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media Group. And today we're going to be talking a little bit of politics. We have Darron Story. He's running for 3rd District at large city council seat. Welcome to the show, Darron.
Thank you for having me, Carlos. I appreciate it.
All right. Hey, Darron, tell our audience a little bit about yourself. I usually like to go, you know the deal, go from kindergarten. And yeah, I'm saying that's how our audience, especially with these elected positions, when I've done most of the city council and they go from kindergarten, a lot of them, a couple from up north, they grandparents were in politics here. And a lot of people say, I didn't know that about him, or I didn't know that about her. And so give the 411 on yourself. Also, what I'd like you to do is pay propers to some of the mentors that help you develop into who you are now.
Okay. My parents moved here from Oklahoma City when I was a year old. So that was 1966. We moved, got here and found a little house on 1629 East 22nd Terrace, which is a little street between Woodland and Vine Street. So my formative years, my childhood was spent on 22nd and Vine. I grew up 3 blocks from the old municipal stadium where the Monarchs played, the Royals played, the Chiefs played. Went to 3 schools in that area: Addicks Elementary School at 19th and Woodland, Lincoln Junior High at 23rd Street, and then, of course, Lincoln Prep. That's what they call it now. Lincoln Prep. Graduated from there in 1982. That neighborhood was an amazing place to grow up. I mean, we were poor. We didn't know it. But what we had back then, which is something that I hope that we can see come to fruition again, was my mother could give me like $10 and I could go walk down the street. I had 2 grocery stores to choose from. We had a dry cleaner, we had a barbershop, we had a doctor on the block, we had a drugstore, JD Johnson's drugstore right there on the corner. And she could send me off to the store and I could go get milk, pick up her prescription, pick up the dry cleaning, all that within a less than 5-minute walk in the neighborhood. And I tell people that sometimes and they're like, what? Yeah, that right there between, 24th and 22nd and Vine was commerce for the neighborhood, in which everyone didn't need a car. You can just go outside your house, walk, go get what you needed. I remember Jack Farellas had a store and he gave people credit in the neighborhood. So it was payday to payday. So you come get your food, sign it off, and then on your payday, you come pay the food bill off. That's what he did for the community, because we were all struggling at some level.
That's how it was, interrupting you, when I moved here in 1978 from New York and located on Prospect, but Bernard, Ben's supermarket.
Oh, yeah. I remember Ben's, yeah.
Ben would cash checks. He would let you go with your grocery bill and all of that. And as you were telling your story, I remember when I came here, Vine Street and 18th Street had a lot of Black businesses, and they even had the pawn shop on 18th Street.
That's right. George's.
So also it was servicing our community.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, man.
No, that's right. I mean, but I remember Ben's too, because I had a lot of friends over in that neighborhood. I played baseball with a lot of guys over there. So Ben's was one of the stores we would walk to, to get our honey buns and, whatever, knee highs or whatever we were buying back then. But so, yeah, that part of the city is very special to me. That's where I learned a lot of what I know. The people that you talked about, people that mentored me. I spent a lot of time at the 19th Street Boys Club at 19th and Paseo, and it's not there anymore. But some of the men down there that mentored me, and actually some women as well, Charles Porter, Charles Palmer, who's now passed away, Andy Waters, Marcus Smith, Rita May, or Rita Azim now. Oh, those are people that saw me every day, like after school and or after band practice or whatever. And I would spend my days there, nights. It closed at 9 o'clock, and that's where I was. But those are some of the people. My band director, Calvin Whitmore III, was a huge influence on me. And because I decided to go into the music industry, at first I was going to be a music band director. I went to Florida A&M to be a music education major. Unfortunately, when I found out how much teachers made, I decided that I would go a different path, because I was honestly insulted when my band director told me how much he was getting paid to teach us. And then I started extrapolating how much time he spent with us. And I basically said, man, you're probably making $1 an hour to do this important work. And teachers should be paid according to the value that they have. And we know that they have tons of value. So I decided, and then of course I went into the music industry, and a lot of people know that I was, well, still in a band called Low Key, who had some success in the early 90s, had a #1 hit called I Got a Thing for You. And we were fortunate enough to be with Arsenio, play on Arsenio Hall and Soul Train and tour all over the world. And that was a dream come true. And to think about, some kids out of Kansas City, a guy like me that grew up on 22nd Terrace between Vine and Woodland, and, having a dream to be a major recording artist and to have that dream come true was pretty significant. And, that happening to me basically changed how I thought about anything I set out to do. I mean, I did that. I should be able to do this. So it left me with a lot of confidence, but there were some hard times in there too. And I had my first marriage kind of bit the dust because of my time in the music business. A lot happened there. Left the music business to try to actually save my marriage and work on it. Came up short, but I think we gave it a good try. And then, of course, after that, you kind of figure out what do you do after, you've been on national television and you're toured with R. Kelly and After Seven and TLC and Bobby Brown. You've done all this stuff. It's like, what do you do next? And honestly, I had to figure out how to reinvent myself. And part of that was figuring out how to better manage the gifts God had given me. And so what ended up happening, Carlos, a crazy thing happened. I got my first nonprofit job back in 96, I believe. And I was working for an organization out of St. Stephen's Baptist Church called Gifts for Education and Economic Development. And I was the program director. And I had never done that before. And my mother-in-law at the time helped set me up with the job. And I had never worked in nonprofit, had no idea what I was doing. But I kind of figured out that I kind of like that. I kind of like doing things I've never done before. It's kind of fun. And it's exciting. And got in there, started developing some programs for kids and schools. And I came up with this program called the MASH Project. And MASH stands for Minority Access to Science and Health. So this is even before STEM was a thing, so I put together a 6-week summer program for a bunch of 11th and 12th graders who had high aptitude in math and science, who were interested in healthcare, because healthcare was kind of going to be the next employment boom, workforce boom. As the baby boomers come into play, start engaging the system, people going into Medicare, more people are going to be in the healthcare system. So there are going to be lots of opportunities. So I figured, well, let's do that. So a good friend of mine, who I also went to Lincoln with, Glenn Rice, who writes for the Star, did an article about me in the Kansas City Star about like me coming back from the music business and coming back to work in my old neighborhood and working with kids. He thought that was a good special interest story. And that article caught the attention of the producers at the Oprah Winfrey Show. And so the next thing you know, I'm getting a call from their producers, and they're wanting me to come on and be a guest on Oprah Winfrey. And so that was kind of crazy. I thought I was getting punked at first when they called me, but it was true. And for the record, Oprah is amazing. She's totally authentic. It was an amazing experience. But it was during that trip that I felt like I had an epiphany. Like God was like speaking to me, like, because before that, Carlos, I was really trying to blend into the woodwork. Like when I came back to Kansas City and wasn't in low key anymore, I really didn't want people to know that. I was kind of embarrassed. I felt like I was a failure. Like, oh man, I don't want people to see me, And when I was up there in Chicago to do the Oprah show, I had this epiphany that, God just wanted me to use the gifts He's given me in a much more favorable way, in a way that is going to be productive for other people, not just my own selfish needs and desires. And that was kind of the beginning of the road, kind of to where I am now, and eventually became really ingratiated in the community, started doing more in the community, worked for the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce for a number of years. And that was really a tremendous opportunity for me to get to know various people in the community all over the
What was
city.
your role at the Greater Chamber?
I was in membership. So investor relations manager was my title. But basically my job was to go out and talk to businesses and get them to join the chamber. And I recruited, I think it was over 350 businesses while I was there to join the chamber. And it really, increased my network of people that I knew from all over the city. And so that was a really amazing opportunity that I was given. And it kind of set the stage, I think, for where I am now. And then, of course, fast forward a little bit later, of course, I'm on the radio, and that's been amazing with my gospel show on Sundays. And I also do a community affairs show, Caring for KC. And then I'm on at night with my 107.3 After Dark show. And I've been doing with 107 now for over 8 years, been on the air. But the best part of my job is me being able to give a platform to charities and organizations about what they're doing. There's so many organizations here that are doing really awesome work that are not the usual suspects, not the big boys that we all hear about. And that's not a knock on them, but I think it's important that people have a chance to tell their story about why they do what they do and who they do it for. And so I seek those people out wherever I can, and either just shouting it out on the radio or putting it on my own Facebook page. Hey, if you're a little organization or you're doing something positive in the community, I sure would like to talk to you. So that, in the spirit of serving in that way, that's what I try for that to be what I do. That's got to be my.
Tell me this. I'm called the cutoff king. People that come on the show, they be like, Carlos, you be cutting people off, but but I'm like, it's my show.
It is your show, so yeah. I respect that. Since I have a show, I can respect that.
Yeah. When you had that epiphany, because that's you using the words I use. I have these epiphanies that come, and was that when you decided you was going to change and get more involved in public affairs and things of that nature?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I knew exactly what I was going to be doing. I just knew I was going to be doing something different. I knew that I was being called for, and I know people say this all the time, so it's probably a little trite, but to leave this place better than I found it. Right.
Well, let me say this. That's why I went back to that question, because in my life, I'm like, I should have been gone a long time ago, but the Spirit has a job for you. Like you really found your purpose. I understand your plight from what you're talking about on the group coming back, and really your mind has to be right to not let your past dictate your future.
That's right. That's
And
right.
I think you over from what you said, you've overcome some of that.
Well,
So
yeah, I have. I still, I still struggle. I think there's times that that I still will maybe fall back into some mindset. Um, you know, but that's a constant battle,
yeah.
right? Struggle that, but if you're aware of that, you can manage it. You can and eventually eradicate it. If you, it can totally be gone. I know that I'm not the man that I was 30 years ago. Thank God.
Right.
But at the same time, I think we all have things that that's why I'm in therapy, so that I can keep tabs on myself, so I can make sure that I don't let any old habits, old stinking thinking creep back into my life. And I think it's important that I have a place that I can go, that I can just talk about my day, my week, my struggles, especially being a Black man. I mean, we have a lot to have to consider as we walk around through this world, especially in these times that we live in. So um
So
I
what's your
have to stay
vision
on track.
for third district at large?
Well, my
What would
vision
you do,
is
do different, or what's your platform per se?
well, I mean, there's a lot of things, Carlos, that I'm interested in, but to go back to the original question, as far as a vision, I think it's really important that in the third district, we begin to think about playing the long game. You know, um, I know that there are low hanging fruits and things that we need right now. I know that we're reactionary oftentimes with things in the third, but I think it's time that we think more strategically in the long game. And just so you know, and anybody that's watching this, I plan to be the type of person or elected official that it will be okay with planting trees that I may not eat the fruits from.
I love it.
You
I
know,
love it.
yeah. So I think it's important that my motivation is not about, standing around cutting ribbons and photo ops and all that. There'll be plenty of that. But I'd like to work on things and hopefully have 8 years to build some foundations and be able to hand the baton off to the next group of leaders to finish that. That's how we're going to get big things done in the third. That's how we're going to impact crime. That's how we're going to impact employment, housing. It's a protracted effort. It is not something that we can fix overnight, because we didn't get here overnight. And I know people want those things to happen fast like that. But if you have a strategy and you have everyone on the same page, these things can happen. And I just think I'm 56 years old. So, I have more days probably behind me than I do in front of me. So it's important that whatever days I have left, that I'm thinking about my kids. I have 6 boys, from 14 to 36 years old. I have 7 grandkids. This city, I want them to enjoy the fruits, the benefits of stable and collaborative leadership when it comes to City Hall.
All right, that was my. See, you taking my questions away. I don't like that, because that was my next question. How effective do you think you can be at building a coalition? Because
Yeah.
you can't do anything by
That's right.
yourself.
You can't. Well, I think my background lends itself to me being able to get people to talk and keep people talking. And I'm a believer that if you talk to someone long enough, there'll be a time in that conversation where you intersect with that person. There's going to be something that you connect with, that you have in common. But you have to be committed to keep talking. So I'm committed to keep having those conversations with people that I don't agree with. But that's okay. I mean, because they still, people that you don't agree with, we've gotten to the idea that if you don't agree with someone, they don't have anything of value to offer. And that's just not true. And I'm talking about normal discourse. I'm talking about not craziness. I'm talking about normal discourse. Even if you don't agree with someone, the idea that they may not have anything of value is the wrong way to go into a conversation, and it's the quickest way for it to eventually bog down. So I'm not that person by nature. So it won't be, it's not something, that's not a thing that I'm gonna have to learn how to
Right.
do.
Let's get on the fast track.
Mhm.
What's your feeling about the Vine Street area, the development and so forth? What has taken place in the past and where they seem to be going?
Okay. So I think I've earned the right to speak on this because those are my old stomping grounds. Uh, I remember when it was, Harold Penner's was down there and Matt Laws was down there. And like you said, the pawn shop was down there, George's pawn shop and Cheap Charlie's candy store. So
I used to
I've,
go in that candy
yeah,
store.
yeah, man, Cheap Charlie's. So I think I've earned the right to speak on this passionately. Um, First of all, the city, in my opinion, uh, can no longer be subsidized buying the jazz district like it has been. It can't do it. It's not viable. It's not fiscally viable. Also, I think that the city should, and I've had this conversation with some people that are connected with the city. I won't say who, that the city needs to get out of the entertainment business. You know, um, the Gym Theater is dark 3/4 of the year, if not more. The Blue Room is world-class venue that's open 3, maybe 4 nights a week. There used to be a a brochure that from Visit KC that used to say that the Blue Room was lit 7 nights a week, and that's just never been the case. We have to give that property to people who know how to do that stuff. That's their business. Uh, they know how to keep a theater lit 3/4 of the year instead of 1/4 of the year. They know how to keep a club booked with talent, all the time where they can be open 7 nights a week. And the district is going to need private money in order for it to survive. And you got to have the right private money. And I understand the trepidation of people in the neighborhoods, wanting the right developers to come in. But I've known Kelvin Simmons since I was 15 years old. We played Little League baseball together. If there's a guy that I trust to do this, it's him. So I think that this was a big step forward. And I'm looking forward to what they're going to do. I know it's a hot potato, the Jazz District, and I know that there's always fear and trepidation that it's going to get gentrified and all of that.
It's already gentrified, so it's no if it's going to be gentrified, that whole area. And I had conversation with Archie Williams. Did an interview with him about Parade Park and what have you. And you know that Cascade Media was located down in that area for 5, 6, 7
And I know.
years. And I think it's a shame what that 30 years and nothing really is there but the fronts. And
yeah, it's time to move on. It's time. It's what's the saying? If you keep doing what you're doing, you'll keep getting what you get.
But my concern is that gentrification part is hard for me to swallow. Mm-hmm. We want. I think you spoke on it efficiently. We want people that know how to run these venues and things, and that have the liquid to keep them up and running. Right. But that's my concern is, from a business point of view, where's the minority investment, the community investment in that area where it's just not overrun. I know the houses in the area now, some of them houses up on 27th and
No, Beacon
going
Hill.
towards,
Yeah.
they probably, I don't know. They look like they bought $300,000 houses.
Oh, there are some that are more than that.
All right. I'm just saying for me, just driving through the area and really, like you say, you grew up in that area.
Mm-hmm.
I had my construction company at 24, 14, 16, and 18 Vine. And you might not know this. When I was in construction, I put all the roofs on Parade Park, and most of the roofs down there on them buildings. And so I was down there constantly, and it really doesn't seem like too much has changed in 30 years. Well, we got the jazz but you had El Capitan, and you had a few things. Yeah, you had a few things down there, but it really doesn't look
Mardi
like
Gras. There was that with the Mardi Gras that was right there in the corner of
right.
19th and Vine. Yeah.
Yeah, but for the money that has been spent.
And and I'm sure that's the thing that people still struggle reconciling, right? That's why private investment, I think it was the time. I think it's been long overdue, to be honest with you. But you had to have the right private investment. I think you had to have the right catalyst in the form of Kelvin Simmons. I mean, Kelvin Simmons has a long track record of development in his town. These shops at the Blue Parkway, he started that. He was on the city council when 18 Divine first happened back in 1999. So I'm this is not an endorsement. I'm just saying that this is a guy that I've known for 40 years, right? And he's been so incredibly unabashed at Kansas City and minority business that until it doesn't happen, I'm going to just trust the process, and hopefully it will turn out okay. Now, are we going to see some different things down there that may be like, well, that's not from here? I think that's going to happen, just like it happened in Westport, but they still have Westport, Harry's, and all those places that are local guys, but you still got the big box things that happen down there. It's a mixture of that. But the idea that place needs to generate revenue. It needs to take care of itself. And also by doing that, it's also going to be beneficial to the residents that live there. And speaking of community engagement, I will tell you that there are residents down there that are, organizing and getting themselves to the table so they can talk about that. Because I do believe that one of the problems that we do have with the district, that you have a bunch of people that are renters. I like to say they are leasing their place. If we were in other parts of town, we say leasing. When we down there in the hood, we say renting. Everybody else, if you're on a plaza, you're leasing. So we need to. Words matter. So we have a lot of people who lease their places down there, who stand on the sidelines and watch this happen. And I know there are people that have leased their places for years. I have a really good friend who's lived down there for 20 years. In one of the townhomes down there. And they are tired of just stuff being done to them. And that's one thing that I do believe, that if you are in government, whatever level, is that you cannot have your constituents feeling like something is being done to them without their engagement, without their approval, without their consent. And so we have to be careful about that as we do these things. So as people are organizing, that's one of the things that I will do. I want to listen to everybody, because I don't have all the answers. Matter of fact, the only way that I can be successful at this is surrounding myself with people that are smarter than me, who have more insight on certain situations than me. I am not the end all be all. The buck stops with me as far as, what I do once I get there. But as far as arming myself with information and intelligence, so that I can hopefully make decisions that do no harm.
Well, I want to touch on this because this is all the way around. It's costing so much to run now, whether you're running for dog catcher in this city. That, I've had this conversation about that school board seat. How, man, my era, you was a mom or a dad that was interested in education, and you wanted to run for the school board, and you might have raised 500 at the max, and you put your little signs out, and you get. how do you spend close to $40,000 to get a seat that doesn't pay anything? And this is where I see from representation of my community not understanding what's happening, and then you get these seats and then you control Kansas City School District, which is basically people of color, and the resources that go along with that and what have you. And it just seems like it's so much pressure on our community, and we don't really have the information, because information applied is power, and our community is just disintegrating as gentrification right in front of our very eyes. And it's like you on a runaway train, those would-be constituents that you would like to serve in Parade Park and in the 3rd District, that it seems like it's hopeless. You can't pull the stop button, or you know, and you just got to go along with what's being fed to you.
Well, that's a very grim commentary, Carlos.
But I'm saying that's how it is, and that's why I'm asking you. What, you know?
Well, I don't subscribe to there's no hope. I won't subscribe to that. I will subscribe that. Yeah, I will subscribe that I will not debate you on your assessment, of course. And I know people feel that way, and I know that there are many things that are happening that why wouldn't you feel this way? And one of the things you were talking about, people having information, is that people in our neighborhoods also are suffering as victims of a digital divide. People don't know things because, you know, it's not the way it used to be, where you could just go pick up the call paper or pick up the Star or turn on local news and you could probably stay up on what was going on in the city. There is so much going on. It is the information overload, from whether it's social, whether it's just online, it's a lot. And, you know, Miss Johnson on 27th and Park still likes to get mail. And now I've been on so many Zoom meetings where people say, well, go to our website, go to our Facebook page, you know, follow us on Instagram. And I'm like, well, you know, Miss Johnson on 27th and Park don't have Instagram. She don't have Facebook. She don't have none of that. So how are we going to get this information that she should know? And Miss Johnson, by the way, is a voter. She goes to vote every year for whatever it is, because she understands the importance of that right to vote. So we have to remember that we are not, you know, homogenous group of people here, that just because we feel like that we are in the 21st century, we're all roads, we're the Jetsons and, you know, and all that. No, there are people here that we have to make sure that we're communicating with them where they are, not just because we are able to disseminate information to thousands of people all at once via the internet and all of that. So that's something that I consistently push back on whenever I'm in meetings or whatever, is that listen, we cannot just tell people to go to the website. We can't tell people to, you know, download the app. You know,
most of the adult, let me tell you this. I went and covered something at 1600 Jackson.
I've been there.
The high rise. Archie was doing some libations day before yesterday. And when the elderly people that was there, and I was telling them to go to our website, a lot of them can't even navigate. Less more, you telling them go to the website, they're like, hey, I barely make a phone call on this device.
Yes. And there's more of them than we can imagine.
Like to think.
Yeah, you know, we need to be honest with ourselves about that. You know, that there is a group of people that are digitally impaired, digitally inept, or don't want to be digitally anything. They out of choice. They don't want to engage that way. But they are still citizens. They are still voters. They are still valuable members of our community, and we have to make sure that
Find a
they
way
are
to reach
included.
them, get them
Absolutely.
engaged.
Absolutely. Because
Well,
we always talk about inclusion, right? Well, inclusion is a global thing. It's not just race, it's not just gender, it's even people like Miss Johnson on 27th who does not have a mobile device, who does not have the internet. We want to include her as well.
well, I want to, is there any closing words that you would like to say to our audience as we wrap this interview up?
Well, I'll just say this, Carlos. I'm doing this because I love my town. I love my neighborhood. It's special to me. I've lived in other places. I've lived in Minneapolis. I've lived in Detroit. I went to college in Tallahassee, Florida. Spent a lot of time in LA. And so I have a perspective about this city that is unique because I've been other places and seen how they do things. And when I think about Minneapolis, the Twin Cities, St. Paul, and I see their amazing light rail system that they have that moves people from all over that city. And that's a huge metropolitan area, just like we have. And it makes me think about, wow, if they can do it, why can't we? You know, and when I think about things like police reform and other things that have happened in North Carolina, a city there that's saying, hey, we're not pulling people over for traffic warrants anymore. We're just not going to do that. Well, if they can do that, why can't we? So I just want to get people in Kansas City to know that, when I come on the scene, that's what I'm going to be saying a lot. I say, why can't we? I don't want to hear why can't we do something. I'm saying, how can we do this? And I'm just looking forward to hopefully writing a new story for Kansas City. Wink, wink. And I look forward to talking to a lot of people throughout this next year.
How can they contact you? And have you started? Well, I guess you should have started your fundraising.
I am raising money. Yes. You can go to storyforkc.com, STORYFORKC.com. That's if you would like to make a donation. I appreciate that. You can also contact us, info@storyforkc.com. If you're interested in finding out more about me, want to talk to me, I'm talking to everybody. I'm taking meetings. I want to talk to folks. The more information that I have from people, I think the more effective, I could be the most effective representative for them.
All right. I've known you for some time. You've always been professional and showed me courtesy more than I could say for myself. People always say, Mr. Nelson. Yeah, I'm just saying. People say, Mr. Nelson, you're not professional. I'll be like, I'm not trying to be. I'm just trying to have conversations now. But I think, and I'm gonna give you the same kudos that I give Eric Wesson. That I feel from a Black man standpoint in the industries, both of you represent our community very well in a professional manner and all that goes with that.
Thank you.
And like that's what I say. I take myself as an exception. I was talking to Eric earlier today. He says, Carlos, who introduces people? Who do we have here?
That's your style. That's your style, man. That's your thing. That's your moniker,
I'm like,
right?
Eric, I'm 70. A lot of times I can't even remember the people's name or the names be too complicated for me to pronounce.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm like, who do we have here? Let them tell their story.
That's right.
I'm glad you recognize that's just my style.
That's your style, man. Everybody's got their thing, and I appreciate that.
I'm stealing Jim Watts's line now. He always closes, it was a plum pleasing pleasure to have you on the show. But I'm going to close as we normally close. When you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good night.
Amen.
The program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.